Hey Star friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Francesca. Thank you so much for tuning in and clicking on this video. If you're new to the channel, go ahead and click that subscribe button. And if you like the video at the end, go ahead and click that like button and share this video with your friends and family. Today's video is going to be an energy forecast on Mercury Retrograde. It's going to be a very brief video just describing a little bit about Mercury Retrograde and what you can expect. So let's go ahead and begin. So I am wanting to explain that when it comes to Mercury retrograde, people shouldn't worry. The reason why there is a lot of emphasis on like worry or panic during this time, it's actually because Mercury retrograde affects the collective and everyone's brain. It also affects our central nervous system, which literally creates a lot of tension, a lot of nerves, a lot of worrisome kind of energy, because it also affects our entire senses, including our hands, sense of smell, sense of touch. We're also very much sensitive to everything around us. That's why you can quickly snap, you can quickly pick up on other people's feelings. But it's also because during Mercury retrograde, our thyroid is affected as well. So our ability to communicate kind of gets a little bit inhibited. It also becomes a little bit troublesome to perceive things the way we would perceive things if it wasn't Mercury retrograde. So our ability to reason, right, and using our intellect is a little bit skewed. Even just making this video, I had to click record and start at least 3 times. So mind you, if you are misinterpreting others or even yourself, if you are a speaker or if you are communicating with others, your boss, your friends, or your spouse, and there is miscommunication, rest assured, it is just that time. So with Mercury retrograde, I like to refer it as like the 3 warnings that divine and God gives us throughout the year to just make sure that we are on task and we are on path in alignment with our destiny. So typically during the first Mercury retrograde, it's typically in the first 1 to 2 months of the year. And then the other one is kind of like by summer, and the other one is usually going into fall equinox, which is kind of right now. We're experiencing the last Mercury retrograde of the year, and it's quite intense because it's right next to the full moon in Pisces. So what this entails is just like a massive amount of energy needing to be highlighted on where the illusions are being placed in our life, where we're deceiving ourselves and others, and where there's also a lot of stagnation. This is also highlighting a lot of like potential, like for the collective, potential like psychosis that we've all been adhering to. So I'm talking about propaganda psychosis and how we have allowed our intelligence to be minimized due to the psychosis that we've been feeding off of, right? That we've been adhering to. So that kind of sums up some of the stuff, but I'm going to explain a lot more about the full moon in Pisces in another video. During the Mercury retrograde, really what it's also displaying, like the planet, what it's displaying is that it appears to be moving backwards, but it's really an optical illusion. Most of the planets in our solar system move in the same direction around the sun, but Mercury retrograde orbits are kind of shorter, so that's why it appears to kind of like reverse course. But during Mercury retrograde, usually what comes up is like repressed issues, repressed trauma, hindered communication, tasks, goals, and lessons. So you'll typically be recalled back to the past, recalled back to the things that you stopped doing, that you neglected, people that you neglected, vital life lessons that you've kind of like didn't continue, and they all seem to emerge back to the surface. It's like, imagine you have a boat and you allow everything in the boat to sink, and during Mercury retrograde, everything from the boat comes up. So you see all the things that went missing throughout the year come up in your life, and there's some things that you're needing to address. And sometimes it can seem a little bit, or it can feel a little bit tense, or it can feel problematic, because those things that we're repressing are things that we're trying to avoid, and Mercury retrograde really makes it seem to you that you can't ignore it. You can't ignore the lessons, you can't ignore the goals. Because why? Because it's part of you mastering yourself. It's part of you mastering your karma in this lifetime. A lot of people know Mercury retrograde for affecting listening, communication, but a lot of what people don't know is that Mercury retrograde affects technology as well. So like literally you'll be like binging and then suddenly like, the Netflix turns off, or like, there'll be like weird, glitches in social media or like in your computer at work. So be wary of that. There's also always like with Mercury retrograde, there's always issues with travel. I remember one time I went to Spain with my family, and we had like a layover flight, right? And our baggage got stuck in another country, in DR, and like I knew, I was like, oh man, because we booked the flight during Mercury retrograde, so I was like worried. But then like the baggage ended up coming. So things like learning, editing, negotiating, even selling and buying, or even assimilating content, information, reading isn't even the same either. And that's because during Mercury retrograde, things are meant to be slowed down. You're not meant to be focusing so much on the daily task. You're meant to really dissect what's happening on a intellectual level. You're meant to really be mindful of how you're communicating, if the way you're communicating is actually serving you and others. And it's also meant to help you reason and really be mindful of that. During Mercury retrograde as well, these are things you want to be mindful of and to avoid. So this doesn't mean that you need to stop this during Mercury retrograde. It's just be super mindful of it. So any long-term agreements, if you're going to sign a contract, you want to be mindful of it, read through the fine prints, etc. Booking any trips is also something that you should be really aware of during Mercury retrograde. Getting married is also something that you should just be mindful of. Make sure that you're marrying the right person. Make sure that you're with the correct person. And you want to question yourself, are you with this person for X, Y, and Z? Or is it because you really love them? You also potentially want to completely avoid plastic surgery during Mercury retrograde. I'm not saying it has to be 100% avoided, but potentially wait. Mercury retrograde is only 3 weeks, so potentially wait after that. Work contracts should just be really looked at. Purchasing large inventory, just make sure that you could trust the person that's distributing the inventory so the packages don't get lost. And then reconciliation or patching up your past. Make sure that if you're going to be reconciling with someone or with other people, make sure it's just the right time. And if not, maybe do a different type of communication, whether it's written communication or in another way, to avoid misunderstanding. And then some tips to just ride the wave of Mercury retrograde with ease. And I also wanted to say that if you want a personal reading or Reiki healing during this time, as it can uplift your spirits during this Mercury retrograde, go ahead and to my website, consciousfultarot.com, book your reading so I can give you some clarity on what you can do to improve your life during this time and what your spirit guides and divine are wanting you to do to improve your situation, and some tips for you as well. And if you want a personal Reiki healing, I could also assist you as well. Okay, so the tips to ride the wave during Mercury retrograde is just to be very cautious to not misinterpret others. And if you are misinterpreting others or others are misinterpreting you, don't try to prove yourself so much. Just, for example, if you are patching up a cycle with someone, you're closing out a cycle with someone, they're in denial, they're not understanding, just claim what you need to claim, and that's it. Sometimes you don't need to be understood. As humans, we always want to be understood, but sometimes being misunderstood is okay, and you just move forward. You also want to be cautious of not overly getting aggressive when it comes to communicating with others. So just be mindful of emotional regulation and emotional control. You also want to be self-aware of any limited beliefs that are surfacing and encourage yourself to basically transmute the dense emotions that come with these limited beliefs and don't allow them to control your actions or to feel like a victim of the limitations. And then last but not least, you want to just make sure to recharge yourself, cleanse yourself, reclaim your power, rebalance your life. It's also going to be a good time, guys, to just like relax, take it easy, be really mindful of your routine, be really mindful of everything that comes up during Mercury retrograde and address it. And you also want to cleanse the intestines, study old passions, reread old books. Oh my God, I love rereading old books during Mercury retrograde and reconnecting with the past, however that seems. Overall, it's going to be a good time to also, like I said, clean the intestines and consume a lot of vitamin K. Okay, my star friends, that's about it. So like I said, if you want a personal Reiki healing, or if you just want to purchase one of my sound healings to increase your energy during this time to manifest more love, money, or if you just want to tame your blood pressure and tame your mind and your body and your emotions, go ahead and purchase my guided breath work. You can find it in my shop at consciousful.com. Okay, my star friends, have a lovely Mercury retrograde and take it easy. Bye now.